How, once Misty's sisters were able to walk and sit a little better, they'd presented him with a gym badge for enduring their challenge. I have no luck and he has 4 fall in his lap, in numbers. Now the group was en route to Vermilion City and remembering to make a few essential stops along the way. So unfair, Misty sighed. Brock, maybe if you'd try something besides over-enthusiastic, not to mention slightly lame, pick-up lines, then you might have better luck. I can't help it. Brock tried to keep the whine out of his voice. I see a gorgeous lady and I blurt out the first compliment that pops up. Speaking of luck, Ash looked around. This area seemed familiar to anyone else. Cerulean was already a couple hours behind them, and they were in the rocky desert section they'd passed through the last time they were heading to Vermilion. Not really. Misty squinted. There's a Sandshrew over that way, but she blinked, seeing a familiar guy with it. Oh, okay, I'm definitely missing something here. Scorch spoke up. Pikachu tapped his knee. Remember when I told you about that AJ guy with the crazy training method he had for his Pokémon? Ah, he looked at Ash. Gonna challenge him again. Nah, Ash shook his head. That was mainly from thinking he was abusing them. Still think it's a little much, though. However, I am curious about why he's got a blue one. Ha, they all looked, and sure enough, a bluish-white Sandshrew peeked its head out from behind the boy. AJ's original gesture did it. Maybe he found a shiny. Misty said, maybe, except shiny Sandshrews are green. New OWTH replied. Brock scratched his head a little. Only one way to find out. 33,333,333. Still not feeling well, the young man asked, looking at the Pokémon. It just gave him a less than enthusiastic whine. Excuse me. He looked to the small group that was heading his way, idly wondering why some of their Pokémon were out of their Pokéballs but shrugged it off. We were passing by and couldn't help but notice your unusually colored Sandshrew. Oh, it's not mine. I found it a couple of days ago wandering out by some Diglett territory and saw it looked kind of sick. So I've been looking after it, but I'm not sure why it's this color, or why it can't seem to curl up like they normally can. Maybe we can help with that, Ash said, looking at his Pokémon. Guys, Pikachu and Butterfree were quickly voted to talk to him, with New OWTH translating for the others. A contemplative frown crossed his face as he listened in. That explains it, he's from the Alola Islands. Alolan, Ash looked at him. Right, you haven't been there yet. The Alola region is far out west of Kanto. It's a somewhat isolated set of islands where some Pokémon, like Sandshrew, have adapted differently from their regular types. Brock facepalmed. That's why. No wonder, Alolan Sandshrews are iced steel types from living up in the region's snowy mountains. The plates on their backs are so heavy they're physically incapable of rolling up. AJ then chimed in, which would probably explain why it's not doing so good. A dry, arid place like this isn't really the healthiest climate for ice types. But, if that's the case, Ash looked at the Alolan Pokémon. How do you even get out here? I'd like to know that myself. Arceus muttered, promptly sending out a mental summons. Dialga, Palkia, Giratina. My realm, now. He tapped a hoof, slightly impatiently, as the creation trio manifested themselves in front of him. Boss. Dialga looked at him in confusion. Could one of you explain why there are Alolan variants in Kanto? He stared at them. Have you three been trying to play 9D hyperspace Pong with the space-time continuum again? No, not lately, anyway. Palkia replied. It's just, Giratina scuffed a foot on the cosmos. Meshing two different universes together into a chronological reset at the same time is harder than it looks. Some of the time frames weren't labeled all that well. That AAAAND, a couple of each reality's canonicities got crossed, so a few individuals are a little older than they were the last time. And a few Pokémon kinda popped up in regions they aren't normally seen, like that Sandshrew. Dialga added. Arceus sighed, and trying to make adjustments wouldn't help, I take it. Not without having to redo the reset, and do second by second to catch any change. No thank you, the alpha Pokémon yelped, shaking his head. Nope. No way. Giratina looked at him. Sue, just roll with it. Yep. Oh look, a thing's happening. Giovanni stared at the trio after they'd arrived with their, albeit small, bounty. While he would have preferred a more substantial number, he wasn't going to turn his nose at 4 Clefairy and a bag of moonstones. The way they managed to acquire it all, though, one more time. He said, giving them a look, you asked the Mount Moon Pokémon if any of them wanted to battle for capturing, on the advice of a trainer. James chuckled nervously. Well, in all fairness, he did have a 10-foot-tall Charizard with him. He quickly shut up when the man and his Persian both pinned him with a stare. Yes, you mentioned that. Giovanni gestured to the Clefairy currently sitting on his desk. So you managed to acquire these 3, and the one who came willingly. And these stones to boot. Pretty much, Meowth answered. In hindsight, it's kinda good, ting we listened ta, Ketchum and didn't keep our old plan. Ketchum, their boss's voice cut through like a razor leaf. That and the stony expression he had made them all freeze up. Why yes sir, Jessie gulped, you know him. Giovanni was silent for an unnerving amount of time. Even Persian nudged him to be sure he was okay. Finally he let out an exhale. Nothing for you to concern yourselves with. Yes, sir, they said, taking that as their dismissal. Jessie, she heaped and stood at attention. Have you officially captured this particular Clefairy yet? He asked, gesturing to the one in question. And no, sir, she replied. We figured we'd let you decide what to do with her. With a brief nod, he gestured to the Pokémon. And take a moonstone with you. Never hurts to be prepared for when a Pokémon's ready to evolve. After a surprised and decidedly happy bout of thank yous, Jessie had her own fairy type. She gave out several more as James and Meowth hauled her out of his office. Once they were gone, he sat back, absent-mindedly scratching Persian's head. Only for him to mutter dourly, Ketchum. Well, that explains things. New OWTH commented after the Sandshrews explanation. Seems he was part of a group of Alola and Galar Pokémon that were supposed to be for a symposium on regional variations. However, he got separated from the others while they were camping for the night and ended up getting lost until AJ here found him. At least that explains that, but the real question is what am I gonna do? AJ asked in confusion and a bit of unease. I don't have the means to care for an ice type out here. I don't even know if he has the same diet as a regular Sandshrew. That's easy enough to fix. Misty nudged Ash, see if he wants to come along with us. But what about the rest of his group? He asked. They've bound to have missed him by now. Apparently the iced steel type heard him because he replied, to be honest, I don't really think the guys transporting us are gonna bother coming back for me. The Sandshrew sighed while MUOWTH translated. They would have been asking around. And a couple of them thought I was just an albino. Damn, I thought getting ditched by my old trainer sucked, Scorch muttered before turning to Hash. I say we get him to come along. I'm with the big softy here. Sky added, ignoring the sputtered protest to her remark. Besides, he looks miserable in this heat. I know I'd be begging to be elsewhere before long. Might be best if he goes with Brock. New OWTH suggested. Me, after all, you're planning to become a Pokémon breeder, right? He looked at the oldest member of the trio. You also have a bit more know-how in dealing with the requirements of various Pokémon. Then and you're the only one who really knows how to cook. Ash chuckled a little. He's got a point there, Brock. The little guy'd probably do better on your watch. Much as I hate to admit it, but aside from, Misty sighed, remembering a certain Pokémon, water types are my forte, so, yeah. You're more experienced for this situation. Brock scratched his head. Well, you got a point, but will he even want to come? I believe that settles that issue. Interested, New OWTH turned back to the icy Sandshrew. If anything, you'll be getting out of this atrocious heat. And who knows, we may come across an ice stone for you. The Sandshrew mulled over this for a minute. Going elsewhere does sound nice. And this Brock guy sounds like he's not too bad from what they all said. And evolving, okay, you got a deal. New OWTH quickly translated. Brock, if you would. One Pokeball later, and the group's newest member was getting introduced to everyone. AJ scratched his head at a slightly bemused fashion. Wow, first time I've seen a Pokémon talk another into letting a trainer catch it. But, it does seem like he'll do better with you. Got my hands full with the lot I have already. Watching the group say their goodbyes to AJ, Arceus sighed in relief that the moment went as smoothly as it did. Of course, that was just a hint as to how different this whole trip was going to be for them. Boss, Dialga walked up, looking back at a small planetoid. Your next major project, it just resonated with a strong psychic frequency and got pulled back into the past. So it finally stabilized enough to make the trip. Arceus let out another sigh of relief. For a while I was worried that wouldn't happen. Dialga looked at the planetoid again. Arceus had left the project there for safekeeping. You sure this is a good idea, boss? I mean, after what happened last time, the events that follow won't necessarily be the same, that much is true. But it's the safest and most stable moment to ensure the highest chance of survival. Besides, I'm sure he'll appreciate the fact we're getting this earlier than he expected. He looked back at Ash's group. By the way, Dialga, any word on our contingencies for the major timeline switches? The temporal Pokémon gave a mild shrug. Most of it's set up. Luckily, knowing Ash and the others, they'll remember the major events and do their best to nip things in the bud ASAP. That's good. Hey, looks like they're getting near that school again. Archie has sat down, a bowl of Pokeblock appearing beside him. This is going to be funny. Licorice Pokeblock, Dialga grimaced. Come on, boss. Man, this was a right Peter to get out right. As compensation, I'm gonna try and make the next one a good deal longer.